It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Vancouver. The wind is howling, the birds are cawing, so if you hear any of that in the background, then I apologize. But today we're making a video that's sort of an update on the Shane Wright situation from a few days ago. We had been talking about Wright the entire season because as the 4th overall guy taken by Seattle, in the most recent draft, he had been in a pretty tough spot. Sure, he was supposed to go first overall in the eyes of a lot of people, myself included, but he slipped all the way to number 4, and to top it all off, in the midst of the Seattle Kraken's success that they have found this year, Shane Wright was not really being given an opportunity to, 1, play, and number 2, when he did play, actually suit up for significant ice time. This was seen as a problem. We had ourselves comments made by the coach, the family of Shane Wright, etc., etc., and it was weird because even though you would see this guy only play 7 games on the year and look pretty okay in those games, not really justifying the 5 minutes of time on ice per game that he was being given, you still had yourselves, his family, himself, and the GM and the coach and everybody saying that they had a plan and that they were happy with the way things were going. Well, we made an update video a few days ago talking about how that plan appears to be pretty genius. You scratch Shane Wright for a certain amount of games, giving him the opportunity to go to the AHL for 2 weeks, despite being a CHL talent the prior year. In normal circumstances, you would likely see guys get sent back to the CHL and they'd be playing the rest of their year there, but with the Kings and Frontenacs and the OHL being the team that they are, where they relied on Wright so much, and with Shane Wright's overall profile being where it is, you would really question whether or not he'd actually learn more by being in the OHL for another season, which is why sending him down to the AHL, which is what the Seattle Kraken did a few days ago, was a crazy good move. He'd be able to stay there for 2 weeks, he'd maybe get called back up to the NHL after those 2 weeks expire, he might play a game or 2, and then he'd be sent over to World Junior Camp, where he could suit up and play in the entire tournament for Team Canada, and during this time in January, the Kingston Frontenacs and the OHL would have the opportunity to trade Wright's rights away. I had to double think about that sentence for a second in my head before I said it out loud. Wright's rights. Yeah. That's kind of funny, but the Frontenacs would be able to trade away Wright's rights in the OHL, and he'd be able to go to another team that wouldn't necessarily rely on him to the extent that Kingston would, therefore allowing him to expand more so on the offensive part of his game and work on it that way. It's a pretty good plan, and honestly, the way things are going, it's been looking incredibly well so far when it comes to Shane Wright and his AHL stint in Coachella. We're going to Coachella, baby, because when it comes to the 2 games played that the Firebirds have with Shane Wright in the lineup, the guy has 3 goals, and all these goals are absolutely legit goals. 2 of them were goals of him streaking down the right wing, either beating a guy or maybe 2 guys, and absolutely sniping it on the goalie. The other goal that he scored was one where he's on the right side of the power play, he receives the pass, he opens up his forehand to the net, and absolutely snipes it as well. Shane Wright has shown off that the shooting ability, the sniping ability that we had seen at the World Under-18s a few years ago is still there tenfold, even though he didn't have an opportunity to show that off at the NHL level in the 7-game sample he had there. I said this several times, but as a Vancouver Canucks fan that had watched the Kraken throughout the preseason and who has some Kraken games on once in a while because, you know, divisional rivals, I was saying this entire time, Shane Wright has looked pretty okay. In fact, I would even say he looks good, because even though this guy had 1 assist in the 7 games, you could definitely tell that Wright had an element to his game that allowed him to make a difference in ways that other teammates could not. Like, Wright would be able to dangle by guys and make cool pivots that would allow him to open up space. He did that against Vancouver several times in the preseason game that he had played against us. Us. Why am I saying us? I'm not in the team, I'm just a fan. But either way, you get what I mean. Shane Wright definitely was not playing like a player who was getting scratched all these nights and getting only 5 minutes of time on ice per game when he was in the lineup. He was playing a lot better than that would suggest. And so now in the AHL that he is scoring goals, he is playing, I believe it's on the first line, It's been incredible for him. In fact, this is the quote that he had when he was speaking to 93.3 KJR Sports Radio in Seattle about his ice time. Shout out to Mike Benton for the tweet over here. It means a lot, for sure. Obviously, you want to play as many minutes as you can. You want to try to be on the ice as much as you can, help your team win games. I think that's kind of the focus for every player, myself included. I want to be on the ice, help my team win, and also develop my own game and gaining that experience. Playing more minutes and playing in different situations is going to help me improve my game and take it to the next level. As many minutes as I can, play each night, is great for me. Hopefully I can keep that up in the future. And one of the replies over here from Richard is one that I like a lot. I didn't even think about this when we started the video, but I'm going to say it right here now. This is really showing why sending him down to the CHL isn't the best option. He's already an AHL level star. Will he be NHL ready after these 5 games and maybe the World Juniors? And to me, based off of the plan that the Kraken have laid out so far, I don't really know if Shane Wright is even going to become a full-time Kraken player this season. As we had highlighted before, there is an opportunity here for the Kraken to just use up Shane Wright's first year of his entry-level deal and actually have it slide over for next season. The Kraken are already doing pretty well without Wright in the lineup, but they do have this guy developing. He could spend his time in the AHL, get called back up, sit for a little bit more because he actually has the opportunity to do that. He already lost out, I think, like 2 weeks worth of playing time because he wasn't played. And then he could get sent over to World Junior Camp, get traded in the OHL, and then the Kraken could send him back down, all without having him play his first 10 games in his rookie year. They could realistically do this to the point where he only plays 9 games in his first NHL season, and it would have enough filler that they would not have to burn off that first year of that ELC. Like, the more I think about it, the more crazy 3D chess it appears to be. I didn't even know that there was a rule that allows CHL players from last year to play in the NHL if they get scratched for 5 or more games in a row or whatever it is. Like, the Kraken exploited that, and they're showing off pretty much why there needs to be consideration to the AHL for some of these prospects drafted out of the CHL right away. Now, for those of you that are asking why is there an agreement that allows such sort of prohibitions to be active, well, it's because the OHL and the CHL, you know, they don't want to lose out on their star players, because if anybody gets drafted from that league, it's so easy to say, okay, well, we took Francesco Pinelli or this other guy that's a top scorer in the OHL right away. We could just place him in the AHL, give him the development on our terms, and you'll lose out on your star players because, I mean, junior hockey is inferior to AHL hockey pretty much, so they want that agreement there so that they protect their younger leagues. But for guys like Shane Wright that are just too gosh darn good to play in that league and actually develop in the process, we already talked about how Kingston wouldn't really give Wright the opportunity to do that because they relied on him so much. It opens up the door as to whether or not star players should get an exception to that sort of rule. Maybe say, okay, if you're a top 5 pick, for example, in the NHL Draft, or a top 10 pick in the NHL Draft, or a first rounder, then you might get this opportunity to do that. But then again, I mean, first rounders, that's still a little bit steep, right? There are still some NHL prospects drafted in the first round from the CHL that really could have used that development time. So I don't know, maybe it is circumstantial, maybe teams will start to use the Wright exploit a little bit more as the years go on, because they're proving that it works. NHL for a bit, AHL stint, World Juniors, and then you send him back to his junior team. That sounds like a crazy plan, but it's one that I feel like Shane Wright, his family, everybody involved, they've been saying that they liked it a lot, so I guess this is why. We are starting to see that Wright still is a good talent, and I'm all for it. Ton of the comments your thoughts about the Coachella Firebirds and Shane Wright's first 3 pro goals in his career, all coming in the AHL in 2 games played. What are your thoughts on the way he's going to be developed in the future, and do you see him not burning off that first year of that ELC? I'm kind of in that boat, but you can let me know in the comments all your thoughts, whether or not you agree or disagree. But Shane Wright is seeming to be all too legit when it comes to the way he's been performing. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99. And bye.